B-sides.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I kind of wish I continued to forget about that. But I'll take it. B-sides. Hi and welcome to Behind the Hype. I'm your host, as always, Brian Dress. With me, as always, Jonathan Artisty.
Yay.
Cheery, unfortunately, cannot join us today. Her call time got bumped up in the rudest of ways, and she has to go to bed at like 8 o'clock.
Oh, yuck.
But you know, good times. Anyhow, so here we are in week 2 of horror director B-sides, and we're off to a great start. Oh man, John, you picked Mimic.
I did. Because I saw the name attached to it, Guillermo Del Toro.
Yeah, you know, the name was not attached to director that I hear is like really heavily handed in the background of this thing is the Weinstein bastards. Harvey and Bob. They basically apparently try to hijack the movie from him, so that is why I am okay not liking this movie.
Yeah,
if this was all Del Toro, I'd be like, what'd you do, man? What'd you do?
Yeah,
since I have that in my back pocket, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be fine being mean to this today.
Yeah, I realized I was reading up on it after we picked the movie, and I sat down to watch it. I was like, "There's a director's cut," and I researched it, and he kind of did his own little cut because he wasn't happy with how the movie turned out. And I was like, "Oh no, spaghetti-o, what are we in for?" And yeah, no, it's a thing. It's a movie that happened.
Yeah, it's one of those. I kind of wish we'd watch the Del Toro cut. I didn't realize there was a Del Toro cut until far too late, as in like an hour ago.
Well, and we're all fans of a director's cut here. We
are very pro director's cut.
Yeah, they hit more than they miss in our experience.
Yeah, and this was kind of an unfortunate. Oops, should have done a little bit more research. But we'll talk about the movie we watched today, which is the theatrical cut of Mimic. And I will have some nice things to say about it. As John said before we started recording, I agree with him. The Del Toro stuff is good.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yes.
But John, do you want to give us a quick breakdown of what happens in this masterwork?
Sure. Yeah, so the movie begins with a bit of a setup that there's this disease that's claiming hundreds of the city's children called Strickler's disease. And they can't find a cure or a vaccine, and they're having a tough time. And it's all because of the bugs. The bugs are spreading the disease, specifically cockroaches, I believe. And so this doctor, Susan Tyler, played by, I'm blanking on it, Mira Sorvino.
Yes.
She develops this kind of fusion between a termite and another bug that essentially will speed up the cockroaches' metabolism so they can't eat enough to survive, and it'll kill them all out. And it works. The cockroach population disappears, or so they think, and they're all happy, and she marries her doctor partner. Or he's either a doctor partner or a cop partner. The movie is never clear on that to me. But they get married, and then 3 years later, suddenly people start going missing in the sewers, and these bugs start showing back up again that shouldn't be there. This Judas breed of bug that she made that is coming back with a vengeance. Turns out that yes, even though they put fail safes in place, that didn't work. Nature found a way, and now these bugs can be like human size, and their wings can kind of clip together to make them look like faces. And while this is all going on, and they're trying to solve this mystery, this Wikipedia calls him an autistic kid, Chewy. I don't know if that's the case, but he can mimic the sounds of these bugs. And so he gets kidnapped, and then when they all get down into the sewers, they find a whole colony that had been able to get thousands upon hundreds of thousands of generations in 3 years. And so they blow the shit out of the underground to destroy the male, the fertile male, the only one who can actually seed this population. And they succeed by the skin of their teeth. And Josh Brolin's in this movie for a little bit, and he dies. And we have a little bit of a cameo from, what's his name from Walking Dead?
Norman Reedus.
Yeah, Norman Reedus.
Yep.
And then there's a professor who shows up for a little bit, F. Murray Abraham, which
Oh,
is
yeah, he's there
weird
for a little
because I just saw him in Mythic Quest as a real crackpot. And so to see him in this as a serious professor type, I was like, this is weird. Well, I should have been enjoying the movie, which should tell you something. But that's what happened.
You did kind of leave out, to me, what is the best / worst thing in the entirety of the movie, which is you're wrapping up the end of the film there, but you forgot the actual ending, which is just, it stops. It just ends. It just stops being a movie. It's like, wait,
Yes.
what? It is just the biggest splash of cold water of just like, it feels like it's going to cut to another shot, and it's just like, nope, credits. We're out of this bitch.
Not even that we didn't get them all.
Nothing.
Because when I looked for this movie on streaming, it was like there were sequels. I was like, oh, they're going to show something like, they didn't quite get one. The second fertile male who's just been hiding, the beta male or whatever. It's, nothing. It just stops.
It's just kind of like, whoa, okay, I guess it's over now.
Yeah, and
I wasn't upset about it. Like I said, I was not exactly having a good time, but it was like, whoa. Just one of those weird, like, I don't think you had an ending. And then when you look it up, you find out Guillermo Del Toro had an ending, and the bastards didn't like it, and they made him change it, and then recast a role, and it was a whole thing.
Ugh.
But that makes it feel like it happened way earlier, like before production. I don't know why they didn't write more to it. It really just kind of like, I don't know why it bothers me so much. Like, cause it was kind of a trope back in that like late 90s time period of like, when the movie's over, it's over. You get the fuck out. But This one just felt very abrupt of just the conflict is done. The explosion happened. You find out that somehow, even though the explosion happened right where the guy was, and he was like 2 feet below it under like 2 feet of water, he's fine. But every other bug in the sewer system is obliterated. But
and mind you, mutated cockroaches, like cockroaches that can survive anything, mutated versions of them couldn't withstand a blast, and yet he could. It requires a big leap of logic.
Yeah, he had like 2 feet of water, so I guess he's cool. But yeah, you find out they're alive, and it's like, okay, everyone's alive. Check, done. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. You're like, oh, okay. I figured everything was going to be explained and kind of wrapped up, or like freeze frame and credits, or like something a little bit more. Like there's like one more step we're missing.
Just an acknowledgement that like it's been 3 years. The fact that you killed one infestation probably means nothing.
Yeah.
Like just that sort of like, all right, guys, I guess the war against the human-sized bugs begins, because clearly this can't be it.
Right.
Like, that would have been nice. Like, I know they probably didn't want to tee up sequels for whatever reason, probably because Del Toro was so fucking pissed at the Weinsteins and he didn't want to work with them anymore. But it did kind of feel weird. Like, it's just such a out. I guess some people would probably find that refreshing, maybe. I don't know. It really, really didn't work for me.
Yeah, and I'm kind of split on the abrupt ending and whether that's good or not, because I've seen movies that have, like, that take too long to end, or movies that are just ending too soon, and I'm still kind of on the fence. You could probably convince me either way, depending on what day it is. But in general, this felt, even for being abrupt, it felt too abrupt.
Yeah.
And and then just all the pieces. I mean, we can jump right into it. It's just because the pacing is the biggest problem here, is that this thing just kind of travels like bug slime, and then like becomes really fast and then slow and then really fast. Like, it kind of made the movie feel really long.
Oh,
But then by the end, even though it still feels abrupt, you're like, oh, it's probably good that it's done. Like, okay, I guess I can do other things. What, have I been here all night? No, just a couple of hours.
But you're not wrong about the pacing. Like, you take, for example, like, you have very long explanation scenes about like what termites kind of do. Like, oh, this is how their male lives. This is how this happens. Very, very long, slow, like close-ups on little termites. Very descriptive. But then near the end of the movie, they kill that one bug and they just flip it over like, look, he has lungs. I guess that means this. Moving on. It's like, whoa, what?
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot of time spent on like how the bugs drag their prey down into like holes. I was like, oh yeah, Chekhov's bug, that's gonna show up later.
Sure.
And sort of, but not really. Like,
yeah, I mean, Mira is dragged to a hole, but they don't really mind that much.
No, and for all the stuff she was saying about the bugs, which my level of caring about bugs is pretty low to begin with, so like this fact dump that takes forever. I was like, okay, it's gonna pay off in some sort of way that they're gonna beat him with bug knowledge, and it's like, well, no. I mean, the only time it comes up is when they put goo all over themselves, and I was like, oh, thank God they're putting goo on themselves, something to be genre-y here.
Yeah, because like the I'm gonna get to the stuff I like later. I was about to kind of transition to it, but like, nah, I'm gonna keep complaining because there is some really good stuff in here. But for me, it's I really enjoyed the creature design. Like when you actually got to see them, like especially the animatronic ones, or I'm not exactly sure what it was, but like the practical ones, they looked really cool and goopy and gross, and I enjoyed it. But I had not seen this before, and I watched the trailer and I see this whole like mimic, and they show like the face, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So they're kind of like humanoid bugs, and I was kind of getting into that idea of them being like especially in the trailer when they dropped the whole Mira Sorvino line of the, how have we not seen them before? I think we have. And it's like, oh, wow, are they actually like among us? And then it's like, oh, no, they can just kind of flit their wings together and it just kind of looks human-esque. And maybe from a distance, you wouldn't know you're looking at a huge bug. It was kind of disappointing in a weird way. I was like, oh, so this is just kind of a straight-up monster movie, which is cool. I mean, I guess I should have expected that from Del Toro. And I do enjoy that aspect of it. That's going to be a lot in the stuff I enjoy about the movie. But it was also this sort of like, I thought it was going to be more than just big cockroaches.
Yeah, like that line in particular, you're like, that's a line that belongs in a in like The Faculty, also from Dimension and the Weinsteins, right? Like that's where that line belongs in that movie, where it's like they take over the humans and look like them, whereas like we see the face like once in like really clearly, and it's like, oh, that's what you're going for. But then why would she say like, because you would notice that they walk weird still.
Yeah, like the kid always calls them like funny shoes, and it's like these are noticeable things.
Yeah, like the movie is pointing, like putting red flags, little pins in these things, like pay attention. But then like we never circle back in any significant way to kind of get what they're all about. There's no establishment of these bugs, really.
Yeah, like you don't circle back, and if you do, it's kind of disappointing. Like you don't really circle back on most of like the termite explanation until you feel like you see the one line's like, this is a soldier, it wouldn't die for anything. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that from what she said earlier. Like it's just such like that's why we spent all that time there, was to just say this other line later.
Right, and then the whole blood crazy when they're in the train car, and they bombard the train car, and it's like, it's the blood, they smell the blood. The only other line I can think of that is that same way that just is in there and makes no sense is the line in the original Suicide Squad movie where he's like, her heart's free, you gotta shoot it, or whatever. That line that's just kind of edited in there for no reason, just like to state the obvious. That's kind of what that line did. It's like, but even though this version's worse in Mimic, where it's like the blood has never been a thing yet. Like
no. And then it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's like, okay, I guess I can go along for this ride. But even with that, I'd stop putting that bug juice in the guy's open wound.
Yeah. And when they were doing that, I was like, okay, is he going to turn into a bug? Something to just kind of spin this thing off the rails a bit more? Because at least with that, you would be watching a crash. And
yeah.
Cool.
I honestly thought we were going for Bug Baby. Like, because she got bit in the hand in the beginning of the thing, and then you had the pregnancy scare. I'm like, oh, Bug Baby. Okay, I'm into this. I could see Del Toro doing that. It's kind of gross, and like he always likes the whole like birth thing. Like that's one of his things. I'm like, okay, cool. And then no, that just it did nothing.
Yeah, and I bet that was like something early that was removed or something, because that's a good idea, and I feel like he would have stuck with that. But then, especially with how much time they spend on that in the beginning too. Just like, we'll try again later. Oh, I'm so sad, and then nothing.
Yeah, that goes absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like we've done enough of like the dissing of this thing, because it's pretty straightforward what's bad about this.
I'm trying to think. There's one other thing I really wanted to bring up before we go into the nice stuff, because there's a lot of nice stuff. Nah, you know what? Never mind. Fuck it. Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to the positive stuff. If I think of another negative one, I'll throw it in there, because I won't be able to help myself. I want to start kind of small with the positive stuff though. Because there's one thing that I picked up on pretty quick in this movie, and maybe it's just me inflecting, but I don't think it is. I loved that there's a lot of like nods and homages to like old school monster movies.
Yes.
Like I really got kind of like a Frankenstein vibe from this movie pretty early on. Like this girl's kind of a mad scientist, kind of like just making shit up without really thinking about the consequences of what they're doing and just throwing their creation out into nature. Like I enjoyed that. And then when we the audience first encounter it, like one of the first brutal kills that we see it do is a child, just like Frankenstein, like in the original like movie. The first time he goes out, he kills a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I kind of love that stuff. Like that, like I like seeing Del Toro kind of play. And there was just a little bit of that, and it was so much fun.
Even the way that the humanoid version of the creature walks and shambles around, like a lot of different versions of the Frankenstein monster do that, where he's in a dark coat, just kind of slinking off to the side. The Penny Dreadful show did this. He would just hang in the shadows with a dark coat and walk around and shamble. And like I saw that. I could, you can make that comparison, even though they're years apart. But that language, that visual language, is fully at play here, like you said.
Yeah. And like every time you kind of get those little nods and stuff, it's like, oh, this is the movie I wish we were watching. Like the F. Murray Abraham character could just be a little bit more eccentric, and it's like, okay, now we're kind of getting like the mad scientist, like friend zone sort of thing. Like there's just a lot of like, it was almost there. Like this just wasn't quite 100%, but what's there does work. I just want to see it fully fleshed out because it is so cool.
Yeah, and that's for all our complaints earlier. All these ideas that this movie brings forward and never returns to again, they're all really good.
Yeah,
like even the whole pregnancy aspect, or being like impregnated by the bug, that they hinted at, that would have been its own great movie. Having the kid who could actually communicate with the bug men, due to his autism, like you could play with ideas there, and just like, well, maybe they're not all bad. Like you can do a whole bunch of other things. And then, like you said, the Frankenstein thing. There's also just exploring the subway, like, and finding a colony of creatures and just becoming a siege movie, like that train section became. Also fun, having bloodthirsty bugs attack a train and them trying to find a way out. Like each of the moments in the movie, I was actually into each of the moments separately from the whole.
Yeah.
And just like the cops who were going down there and digging around and causing problems, like there's that too. Like all the characters too, to that point, are actually kind of fun characters. They're colorful. They're maybe not the best. Maybe not all of them ring true 100%. Like, the professor could be more, but they're all interesting enough to want to follow their particular avenue.
Oh yeah, like I love the '90s kids. Like they're all just such '90s kids. Like the two that get killed are just like, you guys are like straight out of a fucking Burger King commercial. Like you're just like you are just quintessential '90s.
Right. Yes. And just the movie also just doesn't care and completely kills the hell out of them. Like,
oh yeah,
like it's brutal. The death here, the deaths in this movie are pretty brutal. Like the preacher in the beginning, he gets like swung back and forth in the grate.
Oh yeah,
before being yanked through because he was too big and too chest heavy, and it's like, that's brutal.
Ouch.
And
Josh Brolin gets fucking cut in half.
Yeah.
Or maybe gutted. You don't really see, but it looks pretty brutal.
And all that's acting on his part. Like, they don't ever show you what happens to him. You just see the blood spray in the back, and then he just dies. And in front of you. And it's like, even though he doesn't get to do a whole bunch, other than like spit and kind of be like, well, I'm a cop.
He's a baby. It's baby Josh Brolin.
Baby Josh Brolin. But that's no mean feat. You're hanging from a sewing machine, a classic sewing machine, and you're just like dying. What a thing. Like, what a neat idea. Yeah. He's being torn in half, and he's holding onto a sewing machine for dear life. Like, there's a visual irony right there, too. Del Toro is just like, you can see it so early on with this guy that he knows how to be playful in the end result, in the scene itself. And yeah, it's those little moments I can't help but gush about.
Yeah. Like I said, there were things I enjoyed about it, but for me, it's just the stuff that brought it down. It couldn't save it. But that said, like, one of the things I really loved about this movie was the relationship between Mira Sorvino and Jeremy Northman. Like, because you get this like working marriage sort of thing from them, where it's like she is the incredibly smart one, who is probably the breadwinner. And he is aware of that and kind of annoyed by it, but also wants to be supportive of his wife. And you don't really ever like fully display it, but as you kind of watch them interact, you kind of get it. Like every now and then he kind of like tries to put his foot down, like, no, this is the man talking. And she's like, you guys are just a bunch of fucking idiots.
Right.
And you can just see it on her face. Like, I know what's going on here. I should be the one helping. Even though she created the whole fucking situation. So maybe not, but that's not her problem, or it is her problem. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like their whole conversation at the end where she convinces him that she's going to go do the thing.
Yeah.
And he just like, he doesn't hold his ground for very long. He does for a little bit, and then you see him turn, and then just like those moments, they're called back to in the beginning of the movie. Like their relationship, we understand it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't fall into that trap where it's like they couldn't have a baby, so they're going to have marital problems. No, they're just working through being both career people.
Yeah.
And the movie is just them working through it. They don't necessarily solve it. They're appreciative that they're both alive at the end. We don't have any more from the movie because it just ends, but that's all it is. It doesn't have to be more than that. And that's actually kind of nice. I was glad that it was simple, that allowed it to kind of play a little bit more complex. They could act off of that a little bit with each other.
And it just made it enough that it felt like a real relationship. Like you actually got these two had history beyond bug sewers.
Yeah.
Which is nice. And it's not something you get in like just kind of straight up monster movies. Usually these characters are here just to, say the lines and run away from the thing. But actually having that backstory just kind of gives this bigger world that exists. And it just makes it more of a real thing. And that's something Del Toro was able to do right from the get-go, even on this movie.
Yeah. Like their bathroom scene where they're just they're getting ready to have some sexy times, but they're just kind of...
Del Toro likes people in tubs.
Yeah. This is definitely the prequel to Shape of Water or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just even that aspect of their relationship, them just finding a little bit of time for themselves and just getting rid of the pretense. Like he just walks into the tub with his clothes.
Yeah.
And like they just don't like they're fine with each other. And I thought that was kind of a nice scene in that specificity. Like he's still in his clothes, he's in the tub. Who cares? Whatever. We're together. We're celebrating.
Yeah, then Zack Snyder did it in BVS. Odd.
Connection?
I still like BVS, but that is like the exact same.
Yeah. Hey, and it works. I'll tell you that. Like it worked in both movies for me. So
me too. So, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm trying to think of the other things that I really enjoyed in this movie. I want to be able to talk. I guess it's kind of a both enjoyment and complaint. I want to be able to talk about the creatures and how cool they are, because in theory they kind of are, and when you get to see them, they are. But you don't really get to see them enough. Like you don't get to see the human thing enough, or how they kill enough. You just kind of get just glimpses. And I feel like it's that sort of like old school horror at play, like I just need you wanting more, and it's like. Yeah, but when you do finally pay off the wanting more, you're showing the male who's kind of boring and not the scary one. So like you're giving us the wrong one.
Right. It's almost taking that tack too far of try to not show much.
Yeah.
Or try to downplay it. And horror movies wrestle with this even still, but I feel like
absolutely.
I feel like back then it was much more blatant. Like, oh, the monster looks stupid, and so you kind of have this not wanting to show it. Whereas, like, you've got Del Toro, who's like, if he's gonna make a creature, it's gonna look cool. Like, let him make it look cool. But I'm also of another mind that I liked how much shadow was in this movie throughout the whole movie. Just there was a grimy feel to when we're in the light with our protagonists, and then you get down to the sewers and everything is just drenched in shadow and noise, and you got the bug noise just all over, and that was effective. I mean, even though I still wanted to see the creature, like you said, more, just. I'm of two minds. I'm torn because it's like at the same time not seeing made what I heard worse.
Yeah,
which made it better. If you get what I mean.
Totally, and I think it's just that it just didn't quite strike the balance well enough.
Yeah,
like it was close. Like I said, with the most of the movie, it was close. It just didn't quite get there. And again, I don't really blame Del Toro for most of this. After I've kind of read the behind the scenes stuff and dealing with the Weinsteins and their fucking dumbasses, I kind of just give them a pass on it. It's like, I like the stuff that works.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's nearly enough of it for me to really want to return to it very often.
No. And I feel like this movie, before I even watched this or came across this, I would always conflate it with Species, the much more evocative and genre and pulpy one.
Is that the one with the naked lady the whole time?
Yeah, who eats the males and all that and destroys them and all that. It's like I can like the way the posters, I kind of conflate them, even though these are two completely different movies. But I feel like that's the one that people remember, and this one, unfortunately, because of all these pieces that are not quite sticking, we barely remember this one.
Yeah, I've cards on the table. I've never seen Species. I just remember the naked lady alien thing on the cover. My parents told me I can't watch it, and I just never went back on that promise. But it reminded Chewie a lot. We watched it last night together of the Relic. And she watched that earlier, and they came out right around the same time. And she's like, the Relic was just willing to be a bad movie more, so she had a more fun ride with it. I might be quoting her kind of wrong on that because she really liked the movie, but it was willing to be kind of dumb and fun.
Trying to see if I remember that one. The Relic.
I have not seen The Relic.
I have not seen. I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, I told Chewie we'd watch it again this week because now I'm curious. Because like I said, I didn't hate the time with this movie. It was just that sort of like that frustrating watch of I know what this could be, and it's just not there. And it's just not there enough where I'm like, there might be like if I had watched this the year it came out, and I like same mind I am now, which I obviously wasn't in the 90s, but I'd go, that either shows great promise or the next thing is going to be fucking horrible. Like it's going to go one way or the other. Like it was just enough to keep me curious. Like knowing now I can see like, oh wow, these were like the early signs of like fucking brilliance. And he already was a good filmmaker. He was just in the Hollywood film system getting chewed up and spit out. So it's kind of cool to go back and like an educational standpoint and look at, but like for entertainment, I'll go back to Starship Troopers if I want big bugs.
Right, or any of like what's the other one he did? Kronos.
Yeah, Kronos.
Or go to the big ones from him.
Yeah,
and like Shape of Water, does the water better.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you look at his filmography, yeah, it's clear that this is a B-side. And unfortunately, it's a B-side because of its quality and not just because it's got lost in the shuffle, which is kind of what I was hoping when I came to this movie. That, like with the other one, The Serpent and the Rainbow, you kind of hope that these are just they're kind of not talked about because people kind of got wrapped up in everything else in the filmmaker's career. But no, to both of these, it's the quality that kind of helps keep it down, keeps it out of our mind and conversation.
Yeah, because you can go like, when this came out, you probably would have seen it and been entertained enough to go like, yeah, it was a good time, and then just kind of moved on. But like going back to them, it's like, oh, these are those movies that were on those Blockbuster shelves that didn't get rented for 6 months and then made it to the back room and then made it to the trash. Like it's just like, maybe not that harsh for a mimic, but like it's that sort of just like, it kind of fell away because it wasn't really good enough to stay.
Yeah, and if you're like a kid who's watching, renting these and watching these like secretly in your room or basement or wherever, you're hoping for something that's really gross and really grotesque, and either that or something really sexy. And you're not going to get any of that with this necessarily because the bugs aren't buggy enough, the deaths aren't deathy enough, the ooze is not oozy enough. Even though you see it there, it's like you're kind of waiting like, oh, that's it?
Yeah,
this is what I snuck this video for.
Yeah, I do enjoy looking at it from like, this is what happens when you put Del Toro on a chain. Like, is this why he didn't do The Hobbit?
Oh man, yeah. Like you think that maybe he dodged a bullet there or something.
Yeah, like it is very interesting from that mindset. But I don't really have too much more to dive into on it. Do you want to move over to our quote T/moment/E/ thing?
Sure.
Unless there's something else you wanted to jump on. I could not think of anything else.
No, I think we covered it, and just I think we covered it. There's not much more we could pull from it. Even the little boy with the spoons, like, we've covered it. There's nothing more.
I mean, all I have to say about him is negative stuff, and it's not that kid's fault, so I'd rather just kind of leave him be.
Yeah.
That seems very rude, but I'm just like, it wasn't your fault, kid. I see that there was an idea here, and then they decided not to, but you were still here, unfortunately. So I guess that's enough.
Yeah. I've got a line, I would say.
Cool.
Then if you will indulge me, I'll go first.
Go for it.
Okay, it's from Josh Brolin's character as he's walking through some ooey gooey stuff in the sewers. This is what I love about my job. I get to travel, see the world, meet new cultures. I mean, it's all bacterial, but hey, what the fuck? And just the delivery, I was like, that led me down a certain path of expectations that weren't honored in the movie, but it definitely led me down a path.
Like, that feels like a line that would be like in another world in Piranha. Like,
yeah.
But what the fuck? Oh man, out of context. Even in context, it's ridiculous, but out of context, that's just goofy.
Yeah.
I'm going for the other line, like the line, and it's both the line and the entire scene, because it just had this feeling of like, wait, what the fuck just happened? Like, it felt like you just changed everything in the movie and just decided, fuck it, but never mind, and just moved on. And that's where Dr. Gates lets the epic line out, my God, the organs, they're perfectly formed. And it's like, what organs? Don't worry about it. The organs. But what does this mean? It means they're big. Don't worry about it. Like, it's just like, wait, what did you just do?
Right.
Like, what was the point of this?
Well, and aren't they also showing him digging through the creature, and you're not seeing anything that looks like recognizable organs?
No, like the lungs kind of look like lungs, and that's about it. And it's just like, wait, but what was the point of like this revelation? Like, it literally is forgotten after that, and everything's just blown up a few minutes later. But here's this whole scene explaining like how they've evolved for fucking nothing.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of my review of the movie. Like, it's just like, wait, why?
Oh, wait, why? Instead of wait, what? It's wait, why? And that's damning.
I will say, Mira Sorvino fucking rocked in this movie like she always does. I didn't say that earlier, and I miss seeing her and stuff. She's fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah. And she had, like, it was fun to see her in a horror film that involves ooey gooey, like, awfulness.
Yeah.
Because she was all in on it.
Oh, man. Like, I'm just trying to imagine this movie, like, in the old school time frame of, like, you know, like an Ant from Outer Space sort of movie, like just like
yeah.
That. Like, I'm like that would have been really cool, and we didn't get that movie.
No, and she could have pulled that off too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, Romeo and Michelle. Is that where you're going with
it? yeah, sort of. Yeah, but like, oh man, that gives me an idea for a double feature.
You know what's weird is that this movie and Romeo and Michelle came out in the same year.
That's amazing.
It's a weird year.
That is a weird year to have on your resume. Like, yeah, 90, what is it, 97? 97 was just kind of a strange year.
You know, I took some jobs. I had some fun. I regret nothing.
Yeah.
And that leads us to double features. I really, really just want to say Romeo and Michelle, but I won't. All right, so I'm going to go first this time. And you got to watch Mimic first.
Okay.
And then you're going to watch Joe Dante's Matinee.
Oh, yeah. Nice little callback there. What a great movie that was.
I fucking loved Matinee. Like, that was such, like, there's things in it that didn't work, but, like, overall, it's just such a fun movie. And, like, it really just embraced, like, the people behind these sorts of monster movies. And I think these would go wonderfully well together.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially like Mimic first, then you see like the potential of what it could have been in the movie within the movie in Matinee. think
that'd be a really fun. I almost kind of want to watch it again now in this double feature.
For me, I'll go with kind of what I would watch logically next after this, and I mentioned it earlier, but The Faculty.
Oh yeah,
that kind of aliens taking over the body and replacing the humans. That. Pod people thing, like that idea would follow well after this, and in fact kind of bring the energy back up after such an abrupt ending. It would be like, what's going on? Oh no, hey, cool, we're back to a new flow. Like, I would just, even myself, if I saw this years ago, I'd be like, The Faculty should be next, and that's kind of my justification.
Faculty is one of those movies that I'm like, every time someone's like, it goes, it's not very good. I'm like, nah, here, listen to my dissertation on why The Faculty is awesome. It's one of the most underrated movies. It's so fucking cool.
But yeah, right. Like there's even a bug at the end of it too. Like it's just like bug movie series, you know?
Yeah, except you have to kill the bugs in that movie with cocaine.
Isn't that great? That's so of that time.
And fucking Alien Jon Stewart, like that movie is the best. God, if we do a Robert Rodriguez month, that has to happen. That would be a fun month.
That would be a balls to the wall bonkers month.
Oh yeah. Maybe it's in our future. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that brings Mimic to a close.
Yep. Blows the shit out of it. And...
I feel kind of bad. Like I was really looking forward to Mimic, and it just didn't fully work for me.
Yeah.
Kind of a bummer. But I did enjoy watching it, and who knows? Maybe I will do that double feature with Matinee, because that does seem like it would be fun. But moving on to next week, we were going to do John Carpenter's Ghost of Mars, and we might still for the last week, because we still haven't decided that one, but I wanted to try to aim for something that I remember being good. I say this so just in case I'm wrong again, but I remember liking this movie when it came out, and I thought it was really cool. And I don't, John, you haven't seen it, right?
No.
And I'm 90% sure Chewie hasn't, but I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure she hasn't. So we're going to do Sam Raimi's The Gift. It's just kind of a cool movie. I remember really liking it. I remember being kind of spooked out by it. It's got a really good cast, and it should be... Fuck, I hope it's good.
Big old caveat there.
Because I really enjoy watching horror movies throughout October, and so far it's been some swings and misses, and then American Horror Story just kind of went at the end of the first half, so I'm missing my horror stuff.
Yeah, I need something that's fun and delightful and deliciously, grotesque.
Yeah. Well, I mean, The Gift isn't grotesque, but it should be fun, I think.
Yeah.
I hope.
You watch it like 10 minutes in, you'll probably text me and be like, oh shit, I goofed.
I fucked up.
Yeah.
Let's hope not. Let's do a quick round of plugs. We can say goodbye. Over at Binge Buddies, we're back up and running with who, what, when, where, and why we do in the shadows. We're into season, or we should just be about into season 2. By the time this recording comes out, it will be next week, I believe. And we're having a blast. It's such a fun show, and we have so much fun recording it.
So, yes, and I caught up. I watched along sort of preemptively and then caught up to the end of second season before you guys got there. So just to kind of get myself in the mode to listen. And yeah, just everything you guys are saying is pretty much spot on. It's such a great show. And when I've done the notes for it, I've always felt like a broken record. Like, 'cause this episode is awesome. This one's fucking great. This one's amazing. And it's like, well, yeah, duh. Yep. We can only sound like a broken record. There really hasn't been a miss.
No, and like especially in season 1, like season 2, I think has one episode I'm somewhat cold on. Then season 3 has a few, but season 1, I think the only one we didn't like was the finale, and we still loved it. It was just like it was the worst out of the 10, but man, is it still good. So yeah, you should check out that show. Like check out our show on it. We have a lot of fun talking about that show, and you should watch it.
Yeah, definitely watch along and listen along.
Stuff. Yeah, absolutely. John, what's going on with Demon Days?
We're still trying to schedule recording and meeting up. But, when you're in the film industry and you have actors who are in the film industry who are coming off of like dozens of days in a row of working and, all that sort of thing, you're just like, we got to make sure everyone's good before we can record. So we're still planning and figuring it out. So maybe by the end of the month.
So it sounds like you're giving people ample time to go back and catch up on your kick-ass show.
Oh, yes. You have plenty of time right now. Because essentially, once we get back into a rhythm, I plan to go back to weekly again. So,
like, I remember when I first started Welcome to Night Vale, I'm like, this is going to take so fucking long to catch up. And it did. I ended up being totally worth the ride, but it can be a bit of a daunting task when you know it's still going. So having this big break makes it a lot easier to catch up.
Oh, yeah. So catch up, be a part of the now. Be with us as we, as our heroes travel through the Shadowfell and attempt to deal with the troubles that are happening there.
All I hear is Wayne going, "Welcome to now."
Welcome to the now.
All right, sounds good. And then be sure to check out Damage Boost. You just had episode 100.
Oh yes, such a good show, and
yep.
If you're not listening to it, you should be ashamed of yourself. 30 lashes with a wet noodle or whatever, and just get to it.
Yep. Good stuff. So thank you everyone so much for listening. We will be back next week with The Gift. I almost forgot it. I knew it was going to fucking happen. All right. Bye.
Bye.
See you later, bozos.